guys, thanks for coming back to Maverick's Arcade. My name is Chuck, and today we're going to talk about how to look at the MAME outputs coming from your emulator and how to configure the lights to light up when those events occur. Now, one thing I do want to go over real quick, though, is from the beginning, I've always pictured using, for example, the marquee lights as police wigwag lights. However, in LED Blinky, the cabinet lights are traditionally being controlled by a second controller. So you'll see a tab for cabinet lights, which is supposed to be used for things like the marquee or other various buttons. And your game controls were always intended to be one set. Well, because I've never used it that way, and I've always used the cabinet lights along with my regular controls, things have been a little confusing for me of how to set them up. And it's also caused me, when I go to configure Jukebox controls, to need to kill the process and then launch the Jukebox command directly, which again is not the intended functionality of the way LED Blinky was intended, but it's the way I've been using it. So I'm very happy to say that this week I finally figured out how to make the way I want my lights to be used to work natively with how LED Blinky is programmed. So with that, let's go check out the arcade and I can show you what I'm talking about. So if you look at, we're going to first look at the old LED Blinky settings and how I used to do things to kind of hopefully bring a little more clarity. So this is the new one. The original LED Blinky configuration I had is here. So we are going to open up the configuration here. And the first thing you're going to notice is that I had it set for lighting game controls, lighting the start and coin. But then this is my gameplay animation. And as you can see, what this is how during any game, I would make sure that my marquee was lit, that my stop and my pause buttons at the back of the panel and our ground effects were all lit up, was through this file. Also, when it was paused, it would do a nice little funky animation here. And then that was it for this set of controls. And then in my front end, I had it set for all active LEDs, which I didn't realize meant every single time I would scroll my control up or down through games, all the controls would go nuts, and that was driving me insane. And then I finally figured out that it's these options here. So when I set it to none, my head doesn't explode. So then I have a front end animation that when it lights up, it just brings the lights up. That's all it does. And it's set for single loop. And then the front end active animation is this, and it's just lighting up my controls. And actually, one moment, let me move the stuff my daughter left out. There we go. And let me fix the sizing on the screen here. Alright, so sorry for that. So the that's the normal light, again, the marquee, the floor lights, and then the buttons for the front end. Then I also had this FE change, which again I didn't realize was causing it every single time I would change the various console systems that would happen and annoy the crap out of me. And then when the whole thing shuts down, the lights just fade out. So that is my animations that I have set there. And then the problem that I would run into was like I said, to get the arcade to actually launch the audio animations is I would have to kill the processes. And that's because apparently under gameplay animation, this would need to be set to audio animation. And the problem with that is when I would set that option, I would then not be able to have my marquee lit and the floor lights lit and the pause and the stop buttons lit. So I was confused on how to do that. So again, I used to just kill the process and then manually launch it, which again is adding complication. So then on the systems here, I had in default settings, and those default settings would include what's on the control panel. And that's because my game animation would do the floor lights, the marquee, and those back buttons. It was not handled by the controls editor in any way, shape, or form. The other part of the issue was when I went to go make these changes, I wasn't able to access the marquee lights and the floor lights. I could not access them, and I could not access them by MAME named controls or by the labels that I created in the layout editor. So I figured out the issue there was if you look at my original input here, you can see that I have a lot of things that do not have any control codes. My marquees on top do not have control codes. My flipper buttons, which are on the sides, a little harder to see, don't have codes. And my first marquee channel does not have codes. My center ground effect did not have codes. My left ground effect did not have codes. And my right ground effect did not have codes. And then I had a weird code for pause, which was the X key, which I've changed it to be the end key because I also realized that the pause button, even though I can do a keyboard pause command, it's hard to map in some emulators because it doesn't recognize that key. So I changed that key to the end key. Excuse me. So now we're going to go look at the way I use LED Blinky now. So I'm going to launch the controls editor there, or the configuration there. We're first going to look at the generate input. So now you can see I've remapped things. Now, the reason why I remapped these keys is because you can see over here, what I was trying to do is I was trying to find the names of functions in MAME that I'm not likely to use. And the reason why is because to control things in LED Blinky, there has to be a mapping here that properly maps over to MAME. So the easiest way, other than your standard control mappings, to get extra lights, especially like in my case, the marquee lights and the floor lights don't associate themselves to any real button. So what I did there is I decided, for example, the left floor light, the middle floor light, and the right floor light would be bound to the UI page up, the UI page down, and the UI home options within MAME. Now, those default controls are already defined. So originally I was going to use like F11 keys as shown up here, but I abandoned that and I decided, okay, well, in MAME already, it knows page up to be UI page up, page down is UI page down, and home is UI home. 3 settings automatically already defined for me. This is great. So I just went through and I said, okay, let's go down to where the ground effects are. So I have center ground effect. That's page down key code. The other ground effect, page up key code. And then the last one is home key code. So then when I was defining the marquees, I said, okay, let's use the zoom in and zoom out buttons. And again, they're already defined in MAME as minus and equal, or equals and minus. So again, all I did is I went to the marquee, said that one will be minus, and the other one will be equal. And then I did some things for the flippers and the plunger as well. But again, that's not a critical issue at the moment. So again, every single thing has a corresponding key code mapping, which does, relate to a real function detectable in MAME. And for your non-MAME emulators, you can still use the MAME keys, so this can be consistent throughout. So now we're going to go to the controls editor. We're going to look at that. Well, but actually, before we do that, let's look over the way I now have things configured in the actual main part of the configuration. So I have it light the game controls, and I have it set for audio animation. But the checkbox is checked for gameplay animation for Jukebox only. Now, this is one thing. So when Arzo, you're seeing this is one thing that does really annoy me, and that is the way this functions now, at least the way it seems to me, is it's turned around and said, okay, for everything we're going to use audio animation. And then by checking this box, we're saying ignore audio animations everywhere unless we've checked the box for audio animation. The part I don't understand is why it wouldn't be, you could set a default animation here, but if you check the box for checkbox, then it just overrides this option and uses the audio animation option. Or, yeah, well, audio animation option. That if you, why couldn't it be, you could set this to whatever you want it to be, and it would be that unless you checked Jukebox. Because you already have the dialogue for Jukebox all over the place. But basically, instead, it's been an option of you can only, when you set it here, you can only use the Jukebox animation. But then if you check this box, it just ignores it unless you've checked the box which tells it to pay attention to it. So that's a little confusing to me. So then we have the game pause animation. We have the rest of this stuff. I don't have a game start animation anymore. And I do not blink. I don't want to strobe it. Well, no. I want to strobe the controls with the speech. And then I've got my front end options. Again, I've got a little start option. I have the active animation. And then I have nothing for the change animation anymore because I don't like it changing all the time. And then I did check the option for demo controls over here under Launchbox, demo game controls. So that means when you select over the games, it'll actually try to show you what the lighting is for those games, which is really cool. And then I have checks use MAME default control mappings, the input codes for all other emulators. Now, there's my audio options. So now let's go into the controls editor and let's look at what's in there now. So under MAME, I have added a default option. And in the default option, I have settings for the page up button, which is the floor marquee. And then the home, which is also a floor marquee, and the page down, which is a floor marquee. Then I have zoom in and zoom out, which are the top marquee. And then I have the stop button, and the end is the pause button. Player 1 is blank. So what this allows me to do is by default for MAME, it's going to try and launch it's going to try to do the graphics for the marquee, the floor lights, and the back buttons, the back panel buttons. However, remember, we have a gameplay animation and this box is unchecked for Jukebox, so it should ignore this stuff. So let's go ahead and check that possibility now to see if I'm correct. It should be ignoring that stuff. Let's go ahead and launch Big Box. And we're going to verify that now to again show you that functionality. So that everything lit up. I've got my game animation or static one frame animation playing for my game system right now. I'll select this. And as you can see, my floor ceiling lights are all off. We're going to launch this game. I don't know if this one loads or not.
Breakers.
So as you can see, I got game controls. You can hear my little thing is moving there. It looks like I've got my back panel lights, but I do not have any of my other lights. So we're going to go ahead and escape out of this game. And again, as you see, we have no lights there. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close the emulator, and I'm going to now turn on the option for Jukebox. And again, this is illustrating that basically, if we check Jukebox, even though it's in this case not Jukebox, it's just going to play. By checking it, it should allow these controls to work. I'm going to check that. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to close, and then I'm going to close again. And now we're going to launch. Yeah, so that was part of my confusion originally, was I saw the checkbox for Jukebox, and I was like, oh, that turns on Jukebox. But it's not actually turning on Jukebox. It's changing a different command to change a command. Now, as you can see right now, the floor and the ceiling are the marquee are not lit up. And it doesn't look like it's going to be this time either. Okay. Ooh. Annoying. So in any case, there's our buttons are not loading there. Now let me show you. Okay, let me see. Verify. Gameplay animation for Jukebox only. Controls editor. MAME. Default. Okay, well, I guess that doesn't matter there. So the thing is then we have a thing for Chase headquarters. And as you can see here, I have control 1, coin 1, start 1, then I have player, and then I have the joystick up. Then I have under common controls, I have nothing selected here. Correct. For my common controls, I have nothing selected. Oh, okay. Sorry. Under MAME, got a little confused for a minute. Sorry about that. All right. So, under MAME, under default, I have some items to find here. I'm confusing myself a little bit here. Sorry about that. When I checked that option, that should have enabled this animation or these files. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK on that. Hit save on that. And then I have also this game here for Chase Headquarters, which has Jukebox selected. Now, with Jukebox selected, because game animation was turned off, there is one thing I also hid over here, and that was in the controls under game specific. We had the gameplay animation, the one I showed you last week, that had all the lights going off and crazy. Well, now with this main test, we're going to be having the marquee on top control the animation when we're all said and done. So because of that, I took the animation file and I took the marquee part of the animation out. And the plunger button, I took that animation out because it was too distracting when you weren't actually in cop mode. So I temporarily removed the name just so that it wouldn't interfere with what we were seeing. So again, all this file is doing is providing the wigwag lights on the floor effects and the flippers. The marquee is not lit up. And this is the part where I was saying it would be nice if it was for Arzu, if we could tell it to ignore something in an animation file. And that was mostly because if I wanted to have an animation file with the static lights for the floor and the marquee and the backlights, then I could apply that to all of MAME games, and then if there was a game where I was animating the marquee, I could selectively say for that game, ignore, in the controls editor, ignore settings from the animation file, if you're tracking me there. So in any case, we now have this file named correctly. It should follow the correct animation when we launch it in the arcade software. Again, we are going to go over real quick in a sec how to do the it's not demoing my controls. It's strange, my controls didn't change at all either. I think I might need to make sure the Led Blinky software is closed. And yep, and then relaunch it. So I'm going to exit Led Blinky. Something was not happy that time. I thought it didn't act correctly last time, so that'll happen sometimes, no big deal. So we're now going to launch Led Blinky again. It should behave this time. Alright. So we now have the arcade. Going in here. Yep. So you can see it's trying to preview controls, which is a feature I really do like. I gotta fix this so it lights the trackball and not everything else. But as you can see, I'm getting the game screen, but I'm not getting the floor lights or the ceiling lights, which is annoying. But if I go into Chase Headquarters,
insert coin,
I should get the floor lights
start
after
game.
The initialization.
Yes. Break.
It's running through my controls.
Gear shift.
And there's my floor lights, and the flipper lights are blinking too, but you can see the marquee lights are not blinking. So we're going to go ahead and exit out of here. I'm going to go ahead and close, and I'm going to check that one theory one more time. But this time I'm going to make sure that the previous launch of it closes so that it can correctly... Okay, Jukebox was selected here, and these things still did not light, even with it having the default. In any case, what we could do is still use the animation file. As you can see, I have checked jukeboxes here, which is the reason why this file was honored. What we could do is for all of our games, take that static animation file where I have the marquee lit and the floor lights lit and whatever I want, and basically just rename or copy and paste the file for each name of the MAME setup. It would be nice as a feature if I could say select this for all games, and like I said, have a little more granular control of using an animation file to light non-cabinet lights, whatever. I think from watching this, you can see how I'm trying to use my system, and maybe how Arzu, you can make it a little more easy to set up blanket. I guess it would be like LED overlays when not wanting to specifically use them for something else. I think you'd be tracking me at this point. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is like I said, I was showing you all that stuff because now I can say I was going to release an Amazon video. A video tonight was supposed to be, and I had it released, scheduled and everything ready to go. I was so excited because I was like a couple videos ahead, and now I realized I've been doing Led Blinky not the best way for me. So I had to pull that video, and now I'm going to have to remake that video and re-release that video. So next Friday, you're going to have a video and a script file for how to take various audio applications and make them work good for jukebox applications, including Amazon Music, Pandora, and other web-based applications, how to make them fit into your arcade seamlessly, which will be a very nice addition. So stay tuned for that one. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about the MAME outputs. For the MAME outputs, this is very simple. You have an option down here under LED Blinky. Strike that. I got to close the controls editor, go back to the main tool, and there is a MAME output test. Now again, in the MAMEs, or in the LED Blinky setup videos, we go over how to make sure that the MAME output is going to the right place and that the options in the MAME software are turned to allow the outputs to occur. So make sure to reference those my older LED Blinky videos to make sure you've got that set up correctly. With that being set up correctly, you can launch this tool. And it does not need to be launched through this software. It can be launched from anywhere. Now, I do have extra monitors on this screen that I use for streaming with my daughter. So I'm going to move that over to that secondary screen, which you can see a little bit down on the screen, down on the side of the arcade view. But all it says is it's MAME output test, and it shows launch any MAME application, and you'll get to see what the output is. So we're going to go ahead and launch the arcade software again. And we're going to use the example we've been running with, which is Jace Headquarters. So the thing here is, I think it would be awesome if we had a couple of extra conditions, and I've already let our Zoom know this, that it would be a feature I would request, and also now we can see why, and that is, as you saw from my video last week, I had the floor lights going, I had the side lights going, and I had the marquee going, all for the siren. But I don't have that level of control currently with the LED Blinky. Whenever there's a light or anything like that, you can only assign one LED to it, or one series of the LEDs, like one RGB LED or one single LED. I would like to see if I could just like define whatever LEDs I want, and I'll
Insert
explain
point.
that a little more in a moment.
Start game.
So I'm launching the emulator,
Yes.
I'm launching Chase,
Break.
and as you can
Turbo.
see, my
Gear shift.
ground effects animation comes on automatically. This again has nothing to do with the games. The flippers right now are going crazy too. This has nothing to do with the game. This is just the animation that I have in place. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the game and go through the place where the lights would go and light up. Now you can see on my screen to the side that it's basically ready for input, but there's nothing being displayed or changing currently with the MAME outputs. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a coin. And that's interesting. It just detected and made sure that the headlamps were turned off. So on this side input, and I'll go over it in a minute, but it does say lamp 0 and lamp 1 off. So if it had been doing some sort of work, it makes sure when I put that coin in that the lights are not blinking. Because the original game for this had a bar light on top with a red and a blue side, and it would flash back and forth. So we've inserted our coin, we're going to go ahead and play, and unfortunately you're going to have to watch me play through to the point where we catch up to the bad guy and would pull out our siren. And we have to wait for this. But the good thing is I do save the state when I leave the game, so we will be able to shut the game off, and then I'll be able to shut the game off, and then when I resume, it'll be the siren turned on. The thing that's worse too is I'm playing on a delay with VNC. We were trying to hit turbo. Oh, I should watch the screen up there. part. I was right there too.
Your time's up.
This is pathetic. This will be much easier for you guys once I start actually editing my videos and so forth and make you watch my screw ups. Okay, so here comes the bad guy. As you see, I've got my siren on. And I'm going to exit the game right now. And the reason why is because the state just got saved. So you saw the siren came out of the car, but the lights on the arcade weren't reacting. We're going to close this out. And I'm now going to pull from that extra monitor right over here. I'm going to pull that over here. And as you can see, we saw the commands for light 1 and lamp 1 and lamp 0 on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, so forth. Right? So you got to remember that. What we're now going to do is we're going to go into the folder where Led Blinky exists. We're going to look for the folder or the file called MAME Output, MAME Outputs INI. We're going to open up that file. Now, what's nice is there is a little bit of instructions on the top, kind of explaining what is going on here with the commands. Now, the one thing I was testing and I was sad to find was not the case was, as you can see here, you have this for a single port intensity, and or you could do it also for the controls name. So you could, for example, if I think it's Galaga or Galaxian, you insert the coin, there is a lamp command that says flash the start button. So you would then just have to define that the LED in question is the start button. So for example, down here, you can see in their example, LED1 equals P1 button 1, which is again the main command. Then they have, for an example, lamp 1 is this command here. Now what this is for is an RGB LED. Again, there's a lot of numbers here, but it is still for one LED. And the way that is set up is controller 1, so that's why they all have a 1. Pin 1, pin 2, and pin 3, because again, on the RGB controllers, you have 3 pins controlling that one LED, one for each of the 3 colors. And then you have intensity, which, so 48 max on red, 0 on green, 0 on blue. So this would be a red light. And then this would be for a single light, and the LW stands for LED Whiz as well. But this would be on controller 2, pin 2, full intensity. So this would be whatever color this LED is, it's a single LED, it would be full intensity. So then we have, this is what I was attempting before, and this is what the request was for Arzu, is I had tried to change a bunch of different sets of commands. So I tried to have this changed, because you use a little pipe thing when it comes to an RGB to say this is a part of one array. So I tried that, and it said malformed input. And then I tried them all separately, but it only takes the first input. I would like to see the possibility that I can have multiple LEDs all chained to one lamp. And the reason why is that would allow me to have my floor light, my flipper light, and my marquee light as lamp 1. And then the opposing ones is lamp 2. So that way when it does the wigwag action, it would be more than just the marquee doing it. Because I like, tacky, over-the-top, crazy lighting. That would be amazing if I could chain as much as I wanted to the animation. Again, staying limited to what the arcade console knows about, in this case 2 lamps, but assigning multiple lights to it just so I could go crazy. Anyway, that was my request, but for now I'm going to go ahead and delete it and leave this. Now, to disable it, I had just changed the name, but since we now want it, I'm going to do Chase HQ, and then underneath, again, over here, you can see we have the only things it's aware of is lamp 1, lamp 0. So over here, I have lamp 0 is the 1 on channel 3, and then lamp. Now these are RGB codes, but I'm only using red and blue. So I don't need to do the whole series. I'm just picking out the one pin on that I am using. So red for the one and blue for the other, both at full intensity. Right? That's all that is. So now I save this file and I make sure that LED Blinky is not currently loaded, which it's not. And I'm going to launch my emulator again. I'm going to put the MAME test back over here. So it's over here on the side. And we're now launching the arcade. So we're going to have a couple of things happening here. We have the controls editor is doing the actual controls. We have the animation file lighting up the floor and the flippers on the side. And again, if you have a custom file and if you've set your jukebox mode on and you've checked the box for only allow gameplay for jukebox, then in your controls editor you must select jukebox in order for that game specific LWAX file to be played. Otherwise it will ignore that LWAX file. So anyway, we're going to go now. Remember, we closed Chase Headquarters with it trying to catch the bad guy. So that's automatically going to be turned on. So when we go in, hopefully our animation on the marquee will already be playing. And then we'll crash and we'll let the light stop to verify that it is responding appropriately to the game. So now we're going to go ahead and go A. And we're going to go back to Chase Headquarters. Now you see, obviously, we have the preview of the controls, but we're launching now. And the wigwag should be on in a section. And there you go. You can see we've got our wigwags. We're trying to catch the bad guy. Now smash his car up.
Oh man!
We gotta smash his car up.
More! Push it more!
Gotta get that bad guy.
Please! Oh man! More! Push it more! Oh man! Bear down! More! Push it more!
Alright, so the time's up. You see my police lights are still blinking on top, and they're blinking on the floor. So this is going to be really weird when the one on the top stops and the one on the floor keeps going. But again, that's below your feet. People away watching you play the game will see it, but you're not really going to see it here at the console. But again, it would be really cool if I could have them all appropriately playing. As you can see, the lights turned off. And, you know, the arcade it's back to normal. We're here ready to go. So now you can take any game, basically play it, watch for the outputs to occur here, and then program accordingly. Like I said, there is another thing I want to be looking into for capturing that output and possibly being able to even run your own scripts for it. However, that's going to obviously create a process launching in the middle of your game, which could affect the latency or create a jump or bounce in the game for you, which we don't really want to do. But again, if you launch this application, you play through any classic arcade game and it shows any outputs here, you can program them in the MAME Outputs for lighting LEDs and things like that. It would be really cool if you could do more than just light an LED. Maybe if you could play a sound file, or if you could chain a command directly from here. It would be really neat, but yeah. I could see that the ability to issue a command might be useful if, for example, the original game had a mode or action or something like that. If we had the option to run a command that would allow you to launch whatever third-party, pneumatic controller thing, whatever. Just off the top of my head. Anyway, that is how you do it. That is the question of the day. You can see kind of like what I'm looking for as far as, feature requests. But if you guys have any questions, again, I am trying to grow the channel and everything like that. Like, comment, share, send it all over the place. And if you guys have any other questions, let me know. The next thing I will be working on is the Amazon application, other music application things that will be next week. And then also I am trying to figure out a final answer on Mortal Kombat 11, making all the controls work perfectly. I am spending way too much lately, so I am holding off on that until I've paid some other things and made sure my car was safe to drive with new tires, which sucks. So if you guys want to help out and you want to see that Mortal Kombat video sooner than later, feel free to contribute to the purchase of that game so that I can make a video and test it thoroughly. I've attempted to fix these issues multiple times without 100% way of solving it success. So I would like to get a copy and test it fully before I attempt it again. So if you guys are able to help, please help out. Let me know and we'll go from there. But otherwise, you guys have a great day. We'll see you next time. Make sure to like and comment. Thanks again. Make sure to check out the links above for some of my other videos and definitely smash that subscribe button. Also, make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any episodes. I'm continually trying to grow this channel, so make sure to like, comment, and share on all your favorite social media platforms. To find more content for this channel, check out the following locations. YouTube is the primary location where I publish the final versions of my how-to videos. I use Facebook for communication, notices about upcoming videos, behind-the-scenes pictures and videos, and the occasional live stream. For live streams, I primarily use Twitch, as it generally provides the least latency for the closest to real-time response rate currently available. I will occasionally multicast to Facebook and Twitch at the same time, but Twitch generally seems to have the least delay, so I prefer it for streaming events. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.